Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. The first episode of 2026. We've been away with Christmas vacation. And, of course, Chris, before we went on hiatus, was dealing with his mother being in the hospital. She's since been released from the hospital, which is good news. She's still in recovery. But unfortunately, Chris wasn't able to be here today, not for any medical reasons. Fortunate, I guess, is a good thing, but this time just workload. We hope to have Chris back with us next week for the second episode of 2026, but I'm not by myself. I'm joined by my coworker and good friend, Kevin Lindsay. Kevin, welcome to Chris McDaniel's America.
I know, not Chris McDaniel, but hey, we're with the leader call. I think we have some good chemistry here, so I think we can make it work.
Well, it's not like we don't do talk shows together anyway.
Right.
So we definitely have worked together on the air, off the air, and I'm happy to have Kevin here because again, there are a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we're just early in 2026. But one of the things that, of course, has captured the nation has been this whole shooting in Minnesota. The ICE agent that fatally shot, I believe her name was Renee Nicole Good. I may have Renee and Nicole flipped, but I know her last name was Good. She was instigating, or I think they refer to it as an agitator against ICE. And then, of course, the ultimate price was paid. Now, some can question whether or not the ICE officer should have fired, and that's become the major debate throughout everything. And I know we all have opinions. My personal take when it first happened was, let's wait till we get more information. Sadly, that wasn't what was happening. The left had protests already scheduled the same day it happened, which just blows my mind. You don't know what happened yet. You don't have the full story, and yet you're already out there protesting. And, of course, you had folks on our side of the equation that were instantly on the side of the ICE agent without all the facts. We've seen a lot more. And don't get me wrong, none of us were wishing for the death of that woman. None of us. It's a sad, tragic thing. No matter what her positions were, no matter what she believed, it's still sad and tragic that that's what happened. But we've seen multiple angles. We've heard reports that the officer was struck and suffered internal bleeding. Kevin, I think you're the one who found that article yesterday when we were talking about this. And again, if an officer, you and I work with police officers every day now. It's part of our job. Police officers aren't always right. They'll be the first to tell you they're not always right. Police officers, as good as I think the ones we work with are, they'll also tell you that there are bad elements within any work agency. It's not just law enforcement, bad elements within any work agency, but they strive themselves to find those and hold them accountable, at least the ones we work with. But they'll be the first to tell you that they have a very small window in which they can make a decision whether or not this is a life or death situation for themselves. And if a car looks like it's turning into you, and trying to hit the accelerator, you have that small window. Mm-hmm. And if the car actually hits you, again, Kevin, it's one of those things where it's very easy to second guess because a woman lost her life. It's very easy to second guess. But at the same time, we weren't in the scenario. We've seen multiple angles, and the angles tell you what I think you want that angle to tell you. Just being honest.
Right.
The bottom line here is it's tragic what happened to her, but this was an issue of she was told to stop and get out of the car. She didn't. She wasn't complying. She wasn't there to comply. She was there to disrupt. Do I think that she wanted to harm the officer? I honestly don't, but I don't know that. And neither did the officer, is my point of view. Kevin, what was your big takeaway from the days and days and the multiple videos and angles we've seen?
Yeah, first of all, it's a tragic situation. My belief is first of all, she's an image bearer just as much as anybody else is. So whenever I first heard about it, I really didn't look into the story too much. But I hated to hear that anything happened to someone to someone. And then actually, I was actually out of town. I was in Flowood whenever it started, I guess, kind of trending and things like that, and questions started being raised. And I think that's when I saw the first video. And the first video we saw was from pretty far away, and you really couldn't make much out. And I'm like you. We live in a America today where it's react first and then ask questions later. And as I was talking with some people, I was like, I'm not really don't even want to say anything because you really can't tell much from the video angle that I saw. And then you wait a couple of days and then you start seeing more video angles come out. You start seeing more seconds added to videos. Instead of a 10 or 15 second video, you start seeing 30 and 45. And then I think the last one I saw was around 60 to 70 seconds. And then you start seeing that there was some confrontation there. And then you start hearing some things that, she had been taught to agitate ICE agents and things like that. And again, there was a lot of reaction. I think the one video that I saw was from the ICE agent's cell phone, and he comes around the passenger side of the vehicle, and you can clearly hear another ICE agent saying, "Hey, step out of the car." And she refuses to step out of the car, obviously, the SUV. And keep in mind, I think this is a big thing that people are really forgetting, no matter what side they're on, is this ICE agent who was holding the cell phone, who's probably has the best vantage point. He had just been drugged by a vehicle just a few months ago. Yeah. He required, if I'm not mistaken, had to go through surgery and a lot of other things, really badly injured his leg, things like that. So he's coming around the vehicle, and obviously there's multiple ICE agents there, and then you have the confrontation, the back and forth. And I will say this, I do not think that she was trying to hit him. Her wheels were pointed to the passenger side. They were pointed to the right. But she was very aware that someone was there. She was very aware that this ICE agent was there in front of her vehicle. And she just takes off. And you can very clearly hear the thump of the front bumper hitting him. And like you said, former police chief Tommy Cox, we had a long conversation about this one day. You have less than 3 seconds to react oftentimes. And whether anyone wants to admit it or not, that vehicle that she's in can be considered a deadly weapon. She's driving a 2-ton vehicle, hundreds of pounds of vehicle. And whether she meant to or not, that vehicle turns to a deadly weapon whenever you take off in it with no regard of anyone. And I just want to say this too. Keep in mind, she's on a neighborhood street. If she just takes off, who knows if there's a kid coming by, if there's another person coming by. She's taking off, obviously emotional. Anything could have happened past that point. But you see, he has a split-second reaction to make, and he does what he felt he needed to do instead of being drugged down the road once again like he had done previously months ago. Obviously, it's very fatal. I don't agree with what they called her as soon as she gets shot, the derogatory remark. I don't agree with that. But again, emotions are high, and that was very evident on both sides. But I'm very disappointed in the reaction of both sides just immediately instead of waiting. And I think that's the core problem that I have, is just we are a nation now that reacts instead of sitting back and asking questions and trying to obtain information.
And we're a nation of two camps. You're either red team or blue team. And we should be more than that. We can't have substantive debates as long as that's where we only break ourselves down to two camps. And again, why I think one side is crazier than the other, there are crazies on both sides. And let's just be honest about it. There 100% are. And we have to make sure, that you're not falling into the side where you're hyper crazy. I have a tendency since, I've gotten to know more and more law enforcement individuals to take the side of law enforcement a little bit sooner, but I also try to make sure I get all the facts, because it is possible they could be wrong in a case, not even trying to intentionally be wrong. It is possible. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with siding initially with law enforcement. We've seen so many things now, and it's so quick to just pick up and start something. And what we've seen out of the leadership there in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, to me, again, the guy is a clown.
Yeah, he's an absolute joke.
I mean, and for him to get up there and hold a press conference where he's basically saying that they're going to defy the federal government. Look, I'm a big state rights guy. I believe the states should have their ultimate authority. But when there's already action and there are folks on the ground like that, and there's already violence starting, don't pour gas on the fire. That's what Tim Walz did. Yeah. Last night, there was an incident where I believe it was an illegal immigrant tried to attack ICE officers with a shovel. They shot him in the leg. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for him, it wasn't fatal. But I mean, again, we're seeing this. We've seen rocks thrown at ICE agents. We see all these folks standing and hollering the most disgusting, vile things imaginable at these ICE agents. Yeah. Are you okay with that, liberals? I mean, if again, take your position on whether or not ICE should be there away. Take that position away and ask yourself, are you okay with how they're dehumanizing these individuals? And that's what it's not just Minnesota where we're seeing it. Again, if you go back to when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, all rational people condemned the assassination, sent prayers to the family. But some of those lunatics on the left, you saw, Kevin, what they did. They were celebrating it, that calling Charlie, well, he was a Nazi anyway. Yeah. And again, if that's your card to go to every time you disagree with somebody politically, that they're a Nazi or that they're the worst person in the world, how can we ever have an honest, substantive debate with somebody that thinks my position is inherently evil?
Right. I have people that I know in the wake of his passing and him being assassinated, and then seeing this situation, and it's two polar opposites. I had someone ask me where they could see the video of where Charlie was assassinated, and they were just wanting to see it because they were glad he was assassinated. I'm just being blunt.
Wow.
And then you have this situation where you have an ICE agent who was potentially about to be ran over, and then that happens where he fatally shoots her, and they're screaming that it's Trump's fault. The one thing that I'd like to point out is ICE didn't just come around whenever Trump won the presidency. Mm-hmm. ICE has been around for many years. Yeah. Barack Obama used ICE to deport illegal aliens. This is nothing that just happened. And one other thing, too, that I'd like to point out, ICE agents, they didn't just target Minnesota. They're not just picking on Minnesota's leadership. They've been in other spots. We got reports. It was in our newspaper where ICE agents were coming to New Orleans and the coastline. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you the people that they were picking up, because New Orleans is a hotbed for human trafficking, I'm very much in support, because you have illegal immigrants who come over through the canals, through those places, and they use those spots for human trafficking. And that's very prevalent. Interstate 59 is one of those interstates that if you really do some research, human trafficking and things happens a lot, and they use illegal immigrants for that. So whenever I see people just imagining that ICE came along whenever Trump won the presidency, it's just naive. It's, again, reaction instead of looking back and assessing a situation and asking questions.
Well, how about, too, again, if you want to apply blame, you want to blame Trump because ICE has an increased presence. You want to blame the ICE agents for being there in the first place. Why aren't you blaming those illegals who came into the country illegally? Yeah. Again, I'm sure there are people that have snuck into the country for the best reasons. They were here for all the right, but the problem is there are also those who are coming in to deal drugs, to human traffic, as Kevin was talking about. There are people coming in with the worst intentions. We have to enforce our laws. We are a nation of laws. We have borders for a reason. I can tell you this, Kevin, if you or I were to go on the reverse end and sneak into Mexico, Mexican government's not going to be too kind to us.
Oh, no, they don't. I had a stepfather who drove 18-wheelers across the country and to Canada and Mexico. I can promise you, as a teenager who rode with him to Mexico, you don't just stay over there.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. There's a whole process. Even if you're just there for a day or 2 days, there's a whole process.
That begs the question, why aren't the liberals in Mexico objecting to the fact that we can't just cross into their border willy-nilly? Why is it they're so offended here? Again, we're a nation that has a massive debt, a major problem. And yet we want to try to bring on more people that are going to add to our woes. I mean, again, if you want to come to this country the correct way, I support you 100%. If you want to come here and become a U.S. citizen, if you want to come here on a work visa program and you honor the work visa and leave when it's up, I support you. But the problem here is these people are not coming in the right way. They're breaking the law. And a law is a law. People want to try to pretend, oh, it's a harmless law. It's a victimless law. Is it? Because again, if they're coming over here and employers are going out of their way to hire them because they don't have to pay them a normal wage, they're potentially taking a good paying job away from me and Kevin. They're taking good paying jobs away from you and your family. So there is a victim at the end of the day. There's a reason why we need to enforce these laws. And it blows my mind that the left has gone to that extreme to where they would rather protect the illegal immigrant. They don't even like us to call them illegal.
Right.
They hate the term illegal alien. They hate the term illegal immigrant. They'll hold up signs, Kevin, I'm sure you've seen it, where it say no person can be illegal. Well, yeah, they can. I mean, again, if you're breaking the law, you're illegal.
Yeah.
If you're entering the country, you're illegal.
And that's where I'll say, and I've disagreed with some conservative people that we both know on this. I think there's a larger problem with our government where you have good people who are trying to come across, and the process of becoming a U.S. citizen is so convoluted and things like that. I understand that, and I do have. I can't help but understand why you would want to get to here. I love America. I mean, it's the best country in the world, and I understand why people would want to come, and I understand that our government makes things a lot harder probably than what it should be. But I also see the stories of, Daniel Suarez, he's an automobile racer. He went through the process of becoming a U.S. citizen, and how emotional he got for that because he was able to come over here and become a U.S. citizen. He went through the process, and it did not take weeks. It took months and months and months for that to happen. So I do think that some things like that could be streamlined, but there's a lot more to it whenever you have people who are just coming over, like you said, selling narcotics and all this stuff. There's a very fine line. So while I can't understand that there are good people that are coming over here just trying to find work, and they come over on a work visa and things like that, again, there's some things that are convoluted there. I think both of us can admit that we've seen instances where things were just got mismanaged.
Yeah.
But the thing about the mainstream media is they usually don't follow up and find out that if there was something that happened, that it was a green card mix-up or a visa mix-up, they typically don't follow and understand that, hey, they fixed this and it's okay now. They just want the shock and awe again, the reaction story of, oh, this happened to this person, and now he's back separated from his family and kids. Whenever, if you dive deeper, you sometimes and most of the time see that the situation was corrected. We live in the 30-second soundbite world. Exactly.
And that's the reality. I mean, there's a reason why I don't put much stock in presidential debates anymore because it's no longer about ideas. It's about who got the best gotcha moment.
The last good debate we had was between Vance and Walz.
Yeah, because they actually debated.
Right.
Vance destroyed Walz,
right.
But it wasn't a gotcha moment debate. And it was so refreshing because we hadn't seen that in so many years. But again, this goes back to the point, and Kevin, you hit on something that I think is perfect there. Yes, our immigration policies are means to citizenship, I guess is a better way to say it. How you become a U.S. citizen. We need to figure out a way to reform that. Mm-hmm. It needs to be less complicated. I agree with that 100%. But we can't fix any of that until we fix the problem that is the influx of illegals in this country. But I'm 100% on board with trying to figure out a way, after we fix the current problem, trying to come up with a way to, especially those people that are trying to come over here for the right reasons, let's make it easier on them. Let's make it easier for them to become a U.S. citizen. But once you become a U.S., I want you to be a citizen.
Yeah.
You know, I personally, again, I believe English should be our national language. I'm not saying that you can't in your community speak whatever you want, but I think we should have a national language. It has been our predominant language pretty much since we were founded. So why not just go ahead and make it a national language? And I think that's another part of citizenship process. I want to know that you're going to be able to communicate with the vast majority of people in the country because it's better for you. It's safer for you because if you get hurt and you're needing attention and you can't communicate with the people there trying to help you, that's a problem.
Right.
And that's why I think that, yes, we need to simplify. I'm not saying make it so easy that anybody can come. I'm not saying that. But I do think that our process to citizenship is overly complicated. And I think that makes it a little bit more appealing to some of the good ones who want to come over this country to sneak across illegally. But again, just because the system's bad doesn't mean we should just excuse them breaking the law. Because I can guarantee you, they knew they were breaking the law when they did it.
Right. It should be a privilege, but it shouldn't, for me, it shouldn't be like taking Algebra 2. Mm-hmm. But it should be a privilege to understand that, hey, I went through this process to become a U.S. citizen. Let's talk about Tim Walz for a second. Because, again, this guy, he has this press conference where he pretty much is just saying he's going to spit in the face of the federal government. He is already in trouble. Because let's not forget, this is a guy that is currently, he was the governor over what is now being described as the largest welfare scandal in the history of our country. Over $1 billion. That's billion with a B, Kevin. Yep. Not an M, not million, billion. It was going to the Somali government. And it was Somali immigrants, some legal, some illegal, that were spearheading this daycare fraud nonsense. There was a journalist, a video journalist that was going around to these places and trying to see if they were legitimate business. They wouldn't even let them in. And the mainstream media, instead of trying to investigate the claim, they just were trying to disprove everything about that young kid journalist because he wasn't selling a narrative they liked. Mm-hmm. And some of the things they tried to point out were outdated information they knew the majority of folks weren't going to research and look into. But here Tim Walz he's acting this way when he's already involved in a scandal. And I'm not saying Tim Walz directed anything, knew what was happening in this, because I honestly don't know. But he was the governor when it happened. And Kevin, do you think that it would be easy for $1 billion to go off the books like that and be sent to Somalia? Do you think that would be easy for that to happen? Or do you think there'd be a paper trail where somebody within his administration could have maybe seen what was happening sooner? Right. You would think there would be a paper trail, right? Yeah. I think the funniest thing through all that was the media trying to discredit this young man. This young man has been doing this for a while. This is not something that he just randomly decided to go do. You can check his YouTube channel and things like that. he just went through and really done a deep dive. Again, it goes back to national media not doing that. All they're worried about now is 30 to 60-second clips because we have TikTok brain, essentially. Most people do now. Waltz, like I said, has turned into a complete joke. He got exposed in the vice presidential debate, and it has just been downhill since. I wasn't surprised whenever all this come out. I really wasn't. The more I read about it and watching the young man's videos and things like that, it just made me roll my eyes. And
his name's Nick Shirley, right?
Right, yeah. This is nothing that, I mean, I don't see how Kamala Harris picked him as VP.
Well,
I can't.
She was she wasn't the brightest bulb around either,
right.
But it is crazy because I remember, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Chris and I or one of the times that I did this show with Jim Segelski. But we both, when he first came on, we were like, well, he's folksy. He's got that Midwestern charm. I see why he's there. And I remember when we first got tipped off that Tim Walz might be worse than Kamala Harris was when she gave her first interview after taking over for Joe Biden. And he was just sat there. He didn't say anything. We thought he was going to be at that meeting to cover for her word salads. Her word salads still happened, and he just sat there grinning. We're like, I don't know that he's going to be the safety raft they thought he was going to be.
No, far from it.
He's already announced he's not going to run for a third term there in Minnesota because of this scandal. And yet here he is holding press conferences where he's attacking ICE agents, calling them out. He has, what happened last night, I think you can point to him and say he's a direct reason it happened because he wants to talk about how, Trump said this about me, and that puts my family in harm's way. Well, when you get up there and you start calling ICE agents and Trump and you're saying that they're Nazis or Hitler or whatever liberal buzz insult you're throwing out, you're dehumanizing these people.
Right.
These people have families too, Kevin.
Yeah.
They still have to go home at the end of the day. And yet you're going to potentially cause a problem where they might not be able to go home, where there might be a problem. Kevin, I think we're up against a break here. So we're going to pause right here for a word from our sponsor here on Chris McDaniel's America on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Resort.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back here to Chris McDaniel's America. Again, I'm Jack Fairchilds. Chris having to work today. We really hope to have him back next week, but I'm not left alone. I'm left with capable hands of my good friend, Kevin Lindsay over there. Kevin is my coworker at the Laurel Leader Call. He's a fellow reporter, fellow conservative reporter. I think he has even stronger libertarian lean, which I do as well. So, I mean, we're definitely more on the side of less government is good government.
Yeah, for sure.
And before we went to the break, we were talking about this chaos in Minnesota. We're talking about Tim Walz, and I didn't get a chance to really go back to you. There are now calls for Tim Walz to resign. He's already announced he's not running again because the things that he said in the days since the shooting. There are calls for Tim Walz to resign. Kevin, do you think the Governor Walz should go ahead and step down and end his term? I mean, he's got all these controversies, and now he's pouring gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be coming, right? I mean, it just feels like it's that way. A few weeks ago, he was proudly going to run for the third term, right? And then all of this stuff comes out with the daycare stuff, and then he announces that he's not going to seek a third term, that he's just going to focus on finishing out what he's doing, and everything is just going downhill, downhill, downhill for him. I just don't know if he can finish out this term. Maybe he does, because I think at some point he's a little bit clueless. He's self-aware enough not to run for a third term, but is he going to humble himself enough to just bow out? My question would be, what would happen after he takes?
The real question is he truly self-aware enough to know, or was he told by people within his party that he couldn't? Because I don't know that he's self-aware enough. I'll just be honest with you. I think that's giving him too much credit, and and that's just because of things I've seen. I don't think he's a very self-aware individual. I think he's a very clueless individual. I mean, again, why he was running as Kamala Harris's running mate for vice president, we caught him in lies where he was saying he was in China during certain times that he wasn't. These are things that are easily disproven. And he was willing to go out and say that. If you're running on a ticket for the highest office in the land, understand they're not going to leave any stones unturned. If you're going to tell a lie like that, it may seem simple and innocent. And his explanation, do you remember his explanation during the vice presidential debate?
I can't remember it.
I'm just a knucklehead.
There you go. That's right.
I mean, it's just, it was so ridiculously bad that you're sitting here and was like, did they not? I'll be honest with you. I had heard that he wasn't a great debater, but I was like, well, look, they got Kamala Harris ready, and she did. Why I didn't agree with much of what she did fine in her debate, her one and only debate with Trump. I thought that was the best we ever saw her lark. Didn't agree with her. Didn't necessarily say I thought she won the debate, but she was better prepared than I expected her to be.
Great deflector.
Yeah, great deflector. Tim Walz was not. And I thought he was at least going to be able to do that. And here he is, governor, and it seems to be misstep after misstep, Kevin. And I don't know unless the party tells him to step down. I don't think that they will. I don't see him stepping down till his term's up, but maybe he will. We'll see. Of course, there's more news coming out where J.D. Vance and ICE are flipping the script on sanctuary politicians. I'm sure you've heard, especially there in Minnesota, where they're saying that ICE is unleashing the chaos on their city. Vance wrote on X on Tuesday that an extreme important point is that you're only seeing chaotic ICE raids in blue sanctuary cities where local officials are fighting against federal law enforcement. The vice president said that the chaos is created by leaders who would rather promote rioting in their streets than follow the law. That's powerful, Kevin. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another point that a lot of those folks who are just jumping in are missing. These sanctuary cities are promoting breaking the law in the first place.
Right.
They're promoting that it's okay because we don't agree with immigration law. So it's okay to break those. And that's where the chaos is there's no chaos happening where we live, is there?
Yeah.
There's no chaos that I've heard about with ICE agents in Texas. There's no chaos happening in cities and states that are not pushing this sanctuary. And trust me, I'm sure there's some liberal mayors in Texas that are pushing sanctuary cities as well. I want to say Jackson, Mississippi has tried to claim they're a sanctuary city, but nobody wants to live in Jackson anyway, right. Even the people that are from Jackson. So again, I'm not saying that they don't happen in red states, but it's not the epidemic that you see in these blue states.
Yeah, I think it's been quite the opposite. You know, there were the ICE raids and stuff. I think when it happened in Memphis a little while back, there was a lot of people that I did see on social media and, you know, your TikToks and things like that. They were happy that it was happening because they were like, man, you can actually walk down streets now and you don't have to worry about seeing a drug deal go down and things like that. I mean, you see that the difference in how these places are ran. And, you know, you take Memphis, which a lot of people around here are like, oh, you don't go to Memphis. But then we see when you have law come in and work and help and clean out a city, you see what happens. You see that they've actually had a bump up in their tourism now because of it, because people are like, hey, we can go there now without the risk of getting mugged or shot. I'm not saying it's perfect. We're not saying that Memphis is perfect now, but it's clearly getting better.
Yeah.
And unlike we're Minnesota, where you have crazy people blowing air horns in people's ear, and we saw the video of that.
I was going to ask you, but go ahead and tell people about the video.
Yes, I caught wind of the video. Was it Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday of a man who was going to these protests as I guess you would say pro-ICE or whatnot, and he had his own megaphone. And he waves an American flag, and in a lot of videos it starts out where he's telling, "Hey, God bless you," whatever.
He's not there to cause a problem.
Right. He just, he's going and doing what they're doing. He's just on the opposite side. Yeah. And, of course, liberals act like liberals do. And they start screaming and screeching and all of these things. And then it escalates. Well, some gentleman decided that he would take a megaphone with a siren on it, put it in his ear, and try to grab the American flag out of his hand. And the guy, credit to him, probably longer than what I would have, tries to kind of move away and circle around, and this guy keeps on pushing and pushing and pushing, and the gentleman finally just has enough of it, and he says, okay, and he pushes back, and he starts punching, and the next thing you know, it's like a pack of hyenas are on this guy, and he just starts waylaying people. And I count one guy go down, and then another person go down, then another person go down, and the gentleman who had the megaphone with the siren and a purple umbrella comes back into frame, and he throws his umbrella down and takes off his gloves.
It was like a guy getting ready for a hockey fight.
Yeah, he takes off his gloves, and he walks over there, and what I've called as Rocky Balboa has got his back turned to him, and he turns around and he sees this guy, and the guy's fixing to punch him, and he comes around with a pretty good left hook.
One punch.
Folds him. And the thing that made me laugh, I would laugh out loud, and I've watched this clip a dozen times now, and I've told you the funniest thing was when this guy folds like a UFC fighter that falls to the ground. Another guy comes in, and he hits him with a gut punch and then another punch and lays him out on top of him. That was just, it was freaking hilarious to me.
Stack him and bag him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the guy, he's been charged with 5 counts of battery.
But the good news is I think the video clearly shows his self-defense.
Yeah, I think the video, I actually, column will be in Saturday's paper, actually. I think the video is probably going to clear him. I mean, it was very obvious. This guy was in his face. He's touching him. He's grabbing him. He's trying to grab the flag or either his arm, and then the other people come in on top of him. What else is he supposed to do there? So, yeah, it's been shared. Dave Portnoy shared it just for comic relief, how he described it. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
And for our national viewers that want to check out Kevin's column on Saturday, you can go to leader-call.com and you'll be able to check it out there. So again, Kevin, it's crazy, and this is the world we're living in now. And I just want to get back to a day where we can actually have debate. I want to get back to a day where we can have rational conversations. And at the end of it, if we disagree, that's okay too. Yeah. You have your convictions. I have my convictions. That's okay. That doesn't mean Kevin's evil because he disagrees with me on something.
I go back to this, Jack. Back in 2020, there was an incident with a pedal mayor said some derogatory remarks and things like that. I'm sure some people probably remember this, and it was in the whole the Black Lives Matter. It was
during the George Floyd stuff.
Right.
I remember what he said. He said that if you can speak, you can breathe. Yeah. So he was defending police officers, and in full disclosure, that former pedal mayor, was a child of law enforcement. Yeah. So he was always going to be, and I think we've learned since, George Floyd didn't necessarily die because of what the officers did in the first place anyway.
Well, I say that to go back to this. There was a protest here in Laurel, right down the road, right here by the courthouse. And I will never forget walking up to that as a staff photographer, and there was police right on the other side. There was gospel music being played. The protest there was not a protest in Laurel or Petal that I remember that got violent in any way. The one in Laurel was scheduled, I think, from like 10 to 2. It started at 10. It got over with at 2 because if I remember right, I may be completely off base, but I think they were wanting Mayor McGee to make a comment or give a statement on it, and that's why they were out there. But I remember it never getting violent. They were giving water to police officers who were there to make sure nothing got out of hand. Yeah. And I just remember sitting there and just talking to a police officer that I knew, and he's like, man, if people would do that instead of doing what they were doing everywhere else, at the time, we would be in such a better place. Yeah. And I think that every American has a right to protest if they want to peacefully protest. I think that's the privilege of being American. But if that would have, you just didn't see that happen in Mississippi, what's going on in Minneapolis.
No, you didn't see the violence.
Right.
2020, the summer of 2020, after that incident, was an extremely violent summer, especially in those blue cities. And yet, what did the mainstream media tell us? The protests were mostly peaceful.
Right.
They weren't mostly peaceful in those cities.
In Laurel, Mississippi, but they were not peaceful everywhere else.
No. I mean, when you're burning cities to the ground, that's not peaceful. When you got people that have taken over portions of certain cities and the police aren't even doing anything, that's not peace. Again, what you're describing, we're okay with those types. Yeah. We'll defend your right to protest. But when you turn it violent, it's no longer a protest. It's an insurrection. And liberals love that word. We hear them throw that out all the time. But they don't like it when it's pointed out to them. What happened in the summer of 2020 is an insurrection. What we're seeing happen in places like Minnesota, that's the example of real insurrections. I hate to break it to you, liberals. That is. Now, Kevin, we've got probably, I think, 15 minutes or so left in the show. We need to switch gears a little bit. And while this is a big focus in our home state of Mississippi, it is a topic, I'm sure, in multiple states viewing this. There is a battle going on in our state legislature over school choice. The Mississippi House of Representatives passed a plan. I can't remember the bill number off the top of my head. HB2. Wow, I should have been able to remember too. That was my playing number back in the day. So, but yeah, HB2 is the House bill. The Senate has its own plan, which is nowhere close to what the House. It's not a true school choice bill. It's more of a, hop around public school bill. So, but there's a big battle going on, and bless the heart of our teachers. They're overworked. They're stressed out. They don't always have time to research topics, and there are organizations that prey on them, send out emails to them, tell them half the facts, get them riled up. And teachers are against this, in part, I believe, because they've been told by these agitators who they think are legitimate groups that this is going to do this. A lot of fear tactics being thrown out. I'll be honest with you, Kevin. I don't have any kids, so I've never been really a strong advocate either way on school choice. But my position is this: it's our tax dollars. Mm-hmm. So why shouldn't I be allowed to say, hey, I don't like the school district I live in. My tax dollars are the same as yours. Why can't I go ahead and choose a better school? And there are consequences, of course, of having that. I mean, the failing schools have a choice of either getting better or having less funding because they have less students. Not everyone's going to be approved to switch schools. We know that. But that's not the way how it's being presented. It's being presented like the Wild Wild West. There are folks presenting that it's going to be used in athletics as recruiting tools, and they'll try to steal the best athletes from you. I mean, whatever things they can throw out to, again, go back to what we were talking about before, to get people to react without an honest or without actually researching the topic it's being thrown out there, Kevin. Again, my stance is simply, I'm always going to side on the side of liberty. I believe in this case, that school choice is probably the correct way to go. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I have not read the entire bill. I think the entire bill is 446 pages whenever I glance at it.
That's going to take a minute.
Yeah, that's going to take a while. Before we got on the air, I read a highlight, like a synopsis of the bill. There's a lot to it. I am on the side of, I think I'm leaning of the school choice. Mm-hmm. One, for like you said, based on liberty. This is how I see it. And I have people that that I'm close to that are teachers. And
I do too. My mom was a teacher.
Yeah, and I have friends who are teachers. And over the past couple of days, there are some very, very good people that I know that are on the side that they are completely against it. They think this is the dumbest thing that Mississippi could do, and so on and so on. And I'll say this. I've seen a couple of things that have caught my attention. And one is the fact that homeschool and private school kids would be funded. Well, they say that shouldn't be the case. I was home educated. Mm-hmm. My family paid taxes.
They did.
For public schooling. They say that they don't have any responsibility to report. That is untrue. I had to report to a truancy officer every single year. I was tested every single month. They want to say, well, homeschool and private school should have to submit to a state test. I disagree, because as a parent of a child, I don't think that my child should be state tested all the time.
I 100% agree. Do away with the state test. Don't add more.
My child is a prime example of getting ready for a state test. And I 100% side with teachers, because I'm dating a teacher who they have to get the kids ready for a test.
They do.
They get so bogged down that they're preparing them for a test. And I do think that it's hurt our kids, because they're constantly being prepared for a test.
They're not learning anything other than how to pass a test.
How to pass that test.
Not retaining a lick of what they're teaching.
Because the teachers, it falls on the teachers.
Yeah.
And then it falls on the school district.
Yeah.
And so forth and so forth. It trickles down.
Well, it mainly falls on the teachers because, as you pointed out, they're at the bottom of the pyramid.
They're the ones that's paying the price for it, and our students are too. They're the unfortunate victims. With that said, athletics, I hate to break the fourth wall to anybody, but transferring has been a thing for several years now.
Yeah.
If a star student wants to go to a different school, they find ways to make it happen.
Yep.
Let's just break the fourth wall there.
We can point to examples right now.
There's plenty of examples, and I could probably get in trouble if I really went after examples. But there are plenty of examples of that already happening. So as far as athletics, I think that's bogus. I think that's a bogus excuse.
It's a fear-mongering tactic.
Basically, yeah. As far as, from what I understand, it's going to be capped on students being able to transfer and things like that.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. Another thing is, well, the schools, they'll then get to choose. And if a kid has a learning disability or anything like that, then they're going to choose the star student. Well, I hate to be this way, but if I'm a parent and school A, if my student is excelling in the arts, okay, and school A is not a school that is prime for arts, and school B is, and it's in the same district, I should have that choice as a parent to put my child in the best possible spot for her to succeed.
Yep.
Now, if we want to sit there and say that's not fair, then I'll ask a teacher this. Why do most teachers want to be in a certain school? Because they want to succeed and they want to be in the best spot. We have teachers. I have teachers that I know that have moved to different schools to where they perceive as the best school because they want to put themselves in the best position possible. And I think that, to me, is where the end-all, be-all argument is at. Is if you were sitting there saying, as a teacher, I want to put myself in the best position to succeed, why, as a parent who is paying taxes, why can't I put my child where I want my child to succeed?
And before the show, we were talking about this. We weren't sure if this was even going to be a topic today, but when Kevin made that point downstairs, I was like, we got to talk, because that's one of the best arguments I've heard, period. And that's, again, teachers, this is not us attacking you. We understand you're stressed out, you're overworked, underpaid.
For sure.
We agree with that 100%. But at the same time, because you're stressed out, overworked, there are a lot of times where when stuff comes in from certain groups that you don't have time to go research it, you react. And I understand it. But I can tell you right now, and the only reason I'm not naming the groups is because we've got a bigger audience than Mississippi. But if you're a Mississippi teacher watching, the parents' campaign's not your friend. It's not a campaign of parents. I know the name sounds like it is. It's not a campaign of parents. It is a liberal lobbyist that runs that organization. And because she's able to get y'all's email addresses through different entities, superintendents, however she gets it, y'all get those emails. You see parents' campaign, you instantly are like, it's a group of parents. I need to pay attention. And I understand that. So this is not an attack on you guys at all. And I again, my mother was a school teacher here in Mississippi until she retired. So again, I am a child of a public education teacher.
Yeah.
My friends, I've got very close friends, are children of public education teachers. Kevin is in a family now with public education teachers. So we are definitely not anti-teacher, and I don't want anybody. But again, and I hate that I have to explain that, but as we spent the first part of the show while we were talking about Minnesota, people jump in certain camps. They jump in certain tribes, and they don't want to listen to anything else. And they're so reactionary that I guarantee you, Kevin, there are people right now that are saying they're anti-teacher.
Yeah.
Just because we're on a different side of an issue. I'll be honest with you. If school choice doesn't pass, I'm going to wake up the next day and go to work, and it's not going to affect me one bit. I don't have any kids.
Right.
But I still pay taxes for public education, so I'm sorry, but that means I do still get to have an opinion on it.
Well, and that's why I'll say if it doesn't pass, athletics are still going to athlete, right?
Yeah.
They're still going to transfer if they want to do. I just feel like that it's being blown, and there's a lot of fear mongering out there. I know we got to wrap up, but
we got 4 minutes. You got time.
But I will say this: I would ask teachers that if you're trying to put yourself in the best position for your house and your household, and you're paying taxes and you're in there, then why can't a parent decide that they want to put their child in the best position to succeed, not only for a year, but in life?
Yeah, absolutely. And this, I understand disliking politicians. I understand disliking when they take credit for your hard work, but I also think that you need to do a little bit more investigation on certain topics and not just go straight to the fear mongering tactic, not just straight go to this, I'm on this side because this group told me to be.
Yeah, Tate Reeves could have worded his statement a whole lot better. He could have worded that a whole lot better.
And that opened the door for the people that were already against this to pile on. My ultimate guess, Kevin, is the school choice bill as it stands in HB2 is not going to pass. It's going to pass the House.
Yeah.
Delbert Hoseman's Senate is not going to pass it because Delbert Hoseman's a liberal. It goes back to the other point. If the liberals are on your side and you consider yourself a conservative, are you necessarily on the right side? Yeah. I mean, that's an honest question to ask you. But I mean, there's a reason why the Senate bill is so much more watered down and is not a true school choice bill. And it's because Delbert Hosemann leans to the left. Well, he doesn't lean to the left. He is a Democrat in my mind. And because of that, we're not going to see a true. Do I think that the two sides will work something out and pass something? Probably. And at the end of the day, both sides are going to be left unhappy because it's not going to be the bill that the pro-school choice people want, but it's still going to be some version of it. So that's going to make the people that are anti-school choice mad as well. So I think at the end of the day, we're not going to get the resolution on it. I hope to be proven wrong. I truly do. Now, it may just die in the House and Senate committee, and it may be saved for another day. It may never pass. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. Kevin, knowing what you know about our state government and the two entities, do you think we're going to see school choice or a version of it pass this year?
I think it's going to be awful close. I know it's a very hot topic. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it, obviously. We got a couple of more stupid bills that have hit the floor that I'll be paying attention to, but that one's going to be the top of my top priority.
Next year's an election year too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the other reason why I can see it's so controversial. I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. Kevin already knows this. If you want to see a controversial bill pass, it's going to happen in year 1 or year 2. Maybe year 3. But once you get to year 3 and year 4, they don't want to touch the controversy because what they're banking on, these incumbent politicians, they're banking on your short-term memory. They're banking on the fact that you will not remember what they voted for in years 1 and 2. Yep. And most of the time, they get away with it because you don't. Most of the time, they get away with it because you do have a short-term memory. That's another problem. Again, if you're passionate for or against school choice, I can't hold it against you if you want to try to make the politician that voted against what you thought they should have voted. If you don't want to vote for them again, I respect that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I do ask that you make sure that your opinion is based in fact and that you've done your research. And if you've done that and you'll still come to the conclusion that this is a bad idea, that's fine. But if you're just reacting because you got an email, that's not fine. And that's all Kevin and I are asking. Yeah. Just do a little bit more research because, again, we're not experts on this topic. We've done a little bit of research on it. We think we understand why it could be a benefit. I think Kevin made the most compelling argument I've heard in favor of school choice with pointing out that teachers will leave for a better teaching job all the time. Why not let kids, parents of kids, make the same choice for their children? To me, that's hard to argue against, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Kevin, I know we've got probably a little under a minute left in this particular episode. Thank you for coming on. This is your second time guest hosting Chris McDaniel's America. I'm sure it won't be the last. It seems like I'm working my way through the leader call staff.
Definitely.
Kevin, thank you for being a part of this one.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the invite.
Well, look, we hope to have Chris back next week, and hopefully he can be back in the saddle with us. But I'm Jack Fairchilds, and this has been Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new MyPillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.